find somewhere dark and quiet. Put your headphones on. Listen closely now. This is nature's dread. Tonight's story is called The Night Map.
The paper was damp. He ran a thumb along a fold, and the ridge of the map made a small sound, like a throat clearing on old wood. Under the moonlight, an ink blot unfurled where there had been nothing before. It spread slow and glossy, a black bruise that read like a place name. A crow cried somewhere beyond the trees. Then very faint, a human sound, someone calling a name that the forest had swallowed. Can you hear it?
The blot matched a missing hiker who'd vanished 3 days earlier on an unnamed ridge. The coordinates on the map matched the general area searchers had combed. He thought coincidence. He thought pattern recognition, a mapmaker's bias. He took a photograph with his camera, close-up of the blot, the creased paper, the stamp of the ranger district. He put the photo next to a printed flyer of the missing hiker, and the two lines aligned too cleanly. It made a cold point in his chest, the sort of small, practical shock that says, this is either a brilliant accident or something that wants to be noticed. Over the next week, the map made other marks. A tiny loop that appeared overnight matched a fisherman who'd been reported missing from a bend in the river 2 days later. A speck near a scrub ridge lined up with a college student who texted her roommate at dusk and never replied. Each time, the mark appeared before the disappearance was public knowledge. He began to trace the blot edges with his fingernail, like someone might read a name from a pressed leaf. The marks were never words. They were place, a knuckle of rock, a hollow of trees, a broken gate. People in the town, at first polite, then anxious, started comparing dates, search logs, old remnants of campfires. The ranger, who still checked the station sometimes, looked at the map and said nothing. People started to whisper, not about ghosts, but about maps. Who reads them? Who obeys them? Who refuses? And then an archive box turned up. Old ranger logs, a ledger tucked in a false bottom. Names, dates, places circled in pencil. A handwriting that matched the ink on the map. The ledger ended with a warning, half smudged. Do not follow the lines.
He could have gone to the sheriff. He could have taken the map to the department that cataloged lost persons. He did not. Something about the map made a private claim on him. He had been trained to read land alone. The map wanted a private reader. The next blot appeared where he knew a trail by memory, one he'd walked as a boy with his father. It was small, tucked between 2 ridgelines on paper. In the world, it was a slick slope that fell away into pine and fern. He folded a raincoat into a pack, took a small flashlight, and walked under a sky the color of old coins. The woods remembered boots, leaves folded back under his step like a page. He moved with that small, honed quiet of anyone who has to be aware of slope, of footing, of where a ridge might give way. Every time he checked the map, folded in the chest pocket of his jacket, the blot seemed to breathe. His heartbeat matched the beam of his flashlight. When the path narrowed, a sound crept in, a low rubbing, the slow scrape of something against stone. Not animal, not human, not quite, just an insistence, like a pencil trying to find a point on paper. At the marked ridge he found things he could name and things he could not. Broken trail markers arranged in an odd pattern. A circle of small stones, each turned face down, as if denying something. An old boot, its laces braided with strips of weathered cloth. He listened. The world hummed with the small noises of night, and under them was a rhythm that wasn't natural, regular, like the tapping of a hand on a desk. He saw a shallow depression in moss, where the ground had been scoured clean, and in its center a scrap of paper with a single ink dot, glossy and wet as if it had been placed there that evening. He picked it up. It matched the blot on the map. Then a sound from behind him, a voice, far and then near.
the same name his sister answered when she was young. He turned so fast his lamp threw the trees into thin, high shadows. He called back. The sound stopped. Something moved, just beyond the ring of his light, and a breeze, warm and wrong, smelled of river rot and old ink. He felt the map in his pocket as if it had become a weight. He did what anyone would do in a good story. He stepped off the trail to follow the sound.
The climb up the ridge is a clean memory now. Sharp breath, slip of shoes on wet rock, the flashlight's cone cutting away at the dark. He remembers the sky threaded with stars, and then, closer to the summit, the world narrowing to a single point. The map's blot, the dot of paper found in the moss, and then a space that felt like the inside of a watch. The air tightened. He heard his own blood in his ears. There was someone at the center of that watch, or something that had been someone, not alive the way we understand it. The thing, if we must use the word, kept the edges of missing people the way a library keeps book jackets. He saw shapes that might have been clothing, a boot half buried. He heard clips of voices like radio static, names, a laughter that belonged to other years. It did not attack. It kept. It catalogued. When he reached forward, the map in his pocket grew hot, as if something on the paper had been reading him back. He made a choice then, to pull the blot from the map, to tear the corner where the ink pooled, or to leave it. He touched the edge of the blot with his thumbnail. The world tilted, not violently, but as if a page in a book had been turned. He had a vision, brief and sharp, a string of images of the people the map had claimed, small decisions threaded together, leaving a flashlight at dusk, taking a shortcut, answering a sudden call. Their faces were close and unreadable. He felt grief, not only for the lost, but for himself, for the knowledge that some things in the wild are not simply places, but accounts. He folded the scrap into his palm and kept it. He walked down the ridge with the map and the scrap and an understanding that there was no going back to ignorance.
After that night, he was different. Not outwardly. He still packed his pins, he still ate at the diner, but inwardly there was a line that had been crossed. He knew where the blots would go next, sometimes hours before the event. It became a terrible vocation to know a place was marked, and to decide whether to tell someone who might go looking, or to follow the line yourself. He watched friends and strangers step into the forest with flares of hope, and find instead the weight of the ledger. Some were rescued in time because a family refused to leave a trailhead. Some were never found, the blots simply turning into quiet on the paper. Months later, At home, he unfolded the map one last time and found a new mark, small, near the edge where the paper was blank before. It was an ink dot, not on the border of the town or the ridge, but on a place that should not exist on any map, the threshold of his own front door. The dot was tiny and honest, a single point. He looked up from the paper and around his empty room. The lamp hummed. The photo of his sister was still in his wallet. Someone else might have burned the map, turned it in, or published it. He sat very still and realized that knowing had a price. He wrapped the map in waxed paper and hid it where a map maker keeps things that must not be read casually, a false bottom inside a case of old survey tools. Then, some nights later, he found a single additional dot on the outside of the wax, a deposit, glossy and new. The map had been read. It was still marking. Do you feel that? The dread that maps can carry, the quiet moral calculation that comes with reading a ledger that chooses its own victims.
If you're still here, the story followed you to the end. Take a breath. Look around the room where you are now. Make sure everything is exactly where you left it. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who listens in the dark. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and so you can bring someone with you the next time we walk into the wild. Until next time, check the corners. I'm Samnang.
If you close this with a map on your bedside table, remember, some maps are meant to be read, some to be respected, and some to be left folded. Take care of your loved ones. Lock the doors if you like. Keep a lamp within reach. If you want more stories like this, there's a whole trail to follow. Subscribe to Nature's Dread. Good night. The darkness remembers. The night map remembers more. Good night.